Hello everyone, my name is Julia and today we are going to be analyzing Ray Chen's most recent string break when he was playing the Tchaikovsky Violin Concerto with the Seattle Symphony. I make videos all about violin and classical music in general, so if you like that kind of stuff, please hit the subscribe button below. I would love to see my face in your subscription box. So with a lot of things in the violin and classical music world, there's an unscripted protocol about how things are going to go. So something like the concertmaster of an orchestra is the one who stands up to tune everyone, but the oboist is the one who gives the A, or the placement of instruments and how the first violinists are always in the same spot, but sometimes you might see violist, cellist, second violinist all switched in different places, or how the soloists will come in and out from backstage to do multiple bows. In fact, I was talking to someone recently about this. It was her first time attending a symphony concert and she asked, why is it that they leave the stage while the audience is still clapping? And that's because they're probably going to come back out again. So anyways, today we're going to analyze this string break by Ray Chen, in which there's a very specific order and protocol to how things are done when something like that happens. And if you haven't seen, there are some really famous string breaks that are so fascinating to watch. I highly recommend watching the Midori string break when she was really young. I'll probably do a video analyzing that on its own because it's so cool. But today we're going to look at the most recent string break by Ray Chen. Now, just as a preface, strings break all the time, especially on violins. They're not made to last for more than a year, especially if you play on them a lot. And soloists will change their strings like every 2 weeks to a month. So they really get a lot of use out of those strings. And because they go so hard when they're performing, these strings can break easily. And the most common string that is broken is the E string. Now, I wonder why the E string is the most commonly broken string. It's definitely not because it's the thinnest string on the instrument. Hold on, I gotta clean this up. This is not bueno. So yeah, as you can see, the E string, which is this one right here, it is the thinnest string on the instrument, which means it's most likely to break and it's very fragile. The good thing is that E strings can be pretty cheap, even the good ones. But basically these strings get worn out over time and then they get so worn out that they will just break. So let's start watching some of the video and analyze when the string breaks, how it breaks, for as much as we can see of it. All right, so we're here on Ray Chen's channel. By the way, go subscribe to him. He's really cool if you aren't subscribed to him already. Okay, so this is a 2-minute long video, so this is quite an ordeal. Very exposed part of the Tchaikovsky Concerto in the first movement. And you notice it's not that intense of a section. It's hard, that's for sure. There it goes. So what we see that just broke was the E string. You can tell because he has no outer string, and also you're not hearing the higher notes of all those double stops that he's playing. As you can see on the screen here, this is where the string breaks, and you could see where all the notes after that, there's high notes on the E string that he's not playing. Now he's trying to figure out a way to play through it and maybe hit those notes or just play through it with the rest of the notes, but he very quickly decides that that's not possible. Let's rewind and see that break again. So another thing about that string break is that it looks like it most likely broke at the bridge here. Now this is where the string exerts the most amount of tension onto the instrument as a whole. Fun fact, an E string places quite a lot of weight on a violin. It can range from 15 to like 18 pounds, which is kind of crazy to think about. Because as you could see, out of everything that is above the top part of the violin, the bridge is the only thing that actually touches the body of the violin. The strings don't even touch the violin until right here, closer to the nut, and then they technically don't touch the violin this direction, but the tailpiece does. So it makes sense that his string probably broke here because it's the most amount of tension that's being exerted on the violin, and if a string is going to be weak and break, it'll probably break right here. So let's keep watching and see what he does in response to this. Okay, so that was pretty big chunk. This is really interesting. So he broke the string. He tried to go on and see if he could continue throughout the section without his E string, which for some parts of it he could. And he was really trying hard at it, but then he had to make that decision in his head, okay, this isn't possible without the E string. I better do something about it. Now, here's where the standard protocol comes in. So when a violin soloist, and I don't know about viola or cello soloists, if you're a violist or cellist, let me know, but violin soloists, when they break any string and there's no feasible way for them to go on, or there's no orchestral tutti coming up where they can change their strings or anything, they will hand their instrument off to the concertmaster, who is the first chair, first violinist. And the concertmaster will give the soloist their violin, because in theory, the concertmaster will have the best violin out of all the violinists, which is not always true.
The concertmaster is also the closest violin to the soloist in most cases, so it's probably more convenient that way as well.
But you could probably tell that their violin is going to be relatively good, as with most musicians in that type of orchestra, especially in the Seattle Symphony. The soloist violin will get handed off to the concertmaster, and then since the concertmaster still has to lead the section, the concertmaster will hand the violin off to other people, and the concertmaster will take over other people's violins or figure out how to adjust that. And that's where the standard protocol at least gets a little bit more muddy, and I'm not as familiar with how all of that works. But the main thing, soloist, concertmaster swap violins. In this case, Ray Chen has a Strad, so he swaps his Strad with the concertmaster. And you'll see very soon that the concertmaster will get to play the Strad for quite a while, which is, I think, a pretty exciting thing. Ray now has the new instrument. Of course, it's very foreign to him. It's probably very different from his Strad, and not even because if it sounds different, but also because the spacing can be different. Even though there's standard sizing for violins nowadays, older instruments can vary a lot more. For example, my violin was made in the early 20th century. Not exactly sure when, but my violin I consider to be enormous, which is kind of counterintuitive to my stature if you know me in person. So my violin is huge. It's a very large instrument. I think it could be considered a viola if it really wanted to be. And it's very thick. So I have to do quite a bit to reach certain things, and it's kind of difficult to get used to. So as you can imagine, this instrument that Ray is playing on now is probably very different from his Strad, from his instrument that he's been playing on for a long time and is more familiar with this piece on. So spacing can be slightly different, how certain things sound, if the G string is more bright than usual, or if it's more muted than usual, that can make a difference. So he's probably doing a lot of mental work to get used to the different spacing, the different sounds that come from the instrument. And as you can notice in this video, the instrument is not super in tune either, because the concertmaster has been playing for, I don't know where in this movement is, but it's probably 10 minutes in or so. And maybe this is the second piece of a big concert, I have no idea. But the instrument, of course, it's not going to be in tune because it was tuned 10, 20, maybe 40 minutes ago. So Ray also has to get used to an instrument that's completely differently tuned, even if it's just by a few cents, which is going to affect his intonation significantly. And I think that that's the biggest thing that he has to adjust to here in order to play the rest of the first movement well with this different instrument. Now let's keep watching and take notice of where Ray's violin, his original violin, moves throughout this section. I love how the crowd comes. Okay, it's going to the assistant concertmaster, which is the second chair first violin. And then it gets passed to the third chair first violinist. I'm sorry, I think it gets passed to the fourth chair. As you can see, she's changing the string. She's trying to take out the old string. Ray just gave her the new string.
This reminds me, one reason that the violin may be passed to the fourth chair violinist instead of the third chair is because the fourth chair is on what's called the inside, which the second, fourth, sixth, eighth chair violinists, they are all on the inside, which means that they are less visible to the audience. And since she is less visible to the audience in that particular performance, she seems like the best person to change the string to make the performance seem consistent and uninterrupted, although this huge thing just happened.
So Ray does this really smart thing, and I'm sure a lot of soloists do it, but I've noticed it especially with him because his strings break a lot, or at least he likes to show when those occasions happen. He always keeps an extra E string in his coat pocket.
If more dresses had pockets, I think women soloists would be doing this much more as well.
Which is really smart because I don't know what the percentage is on string breaks to performances, but it's got to be pretty often that your string's gonna break. So he has a string in his pocket, and that also means it's a string that he knows is good, which is why he probably keeps it with him, especially for these occasions occasions when his string breaks and he needs to put on a new one. He gives the string to the fourth chair first violin, who is in the midst of changing the string while they are playing. This is like a whole new meaning to like the show doesn't stop. It's with soloists, with performances, it all just keeps going, which is kind of crazy to think about because, you know, you want to give the soloist a chance to play well, even if like a mistake happens, but they don't want to like reset the whole part of the concerto, you know? And audiences, sometimes they love to see like, oh my God, like this perfect person, they have something unexpected thrown at them. What are they going to do? So this is really interesting to watch. The fourth chair violinist is changing Ray's string on his violin while they're all playing. So she has to make sure that the strings are in tune and change it at the same time, which changing a string, especially an E string, doesn't take very long. Most seasoned violinists could probably do it in under a minute, but you know, it's not easy to do when everybody around you is playing. There's so many sounds, you have to make sure it's in tune. It's complicated business. And with an E string, sometimes you also have to make sure that this little protector slip is over the string at the bridge, and that can get complicated. And then like if the string is either a loop end or a ball end, there's a lot of different considerations. So let's see what happens next. Ray's inspecting the instrument. I feel like this is more audience interaction based kind of. I'm sure that he's confident playing that instrument, even if you can see, we're gonna come back to, you could see the fourth violin is changing the string as the camera zooms in. Let's look at that again. Look, you can see her. She's not playing, she's changing the string. Props. Now we're at the huge cadenza. It's very long. He just plays through this whole cadenza with his violin. Watch this. It's pretty cool, you have to admit, and Ray is a really great soloist in many regards, but also he is great with his stage presence and his audience interaction. He makes an experience like that not stressful but enjoyable because the audience knows that he can handle something like this. Now I want to show you the very end of the first movement where he's still playing on this violin, which is crazy. We're at the end of the first movement. And then the audience claps, which I actually really love. I don't care that they clap between movements. I think this is amazing. Props to Ray Chen for being able to adjust so quickly. You can see that he switched with the concertmaster. So the concertmaster got to play his Strad for like 10 minutes at least, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, I think string breaks are really interesting because it's different every time. And the soloists a lot of times may have a different reaction and it's different with different pieces as well. So string breaks are just an unexpected part of being a soloist and you have to get used to handling that kind of stress in a situation. But the good thing is that soloists are already so adept at maintaining their internal equilibrium and feeling calm in the moment. So especially Ray Chen, he's been doing this for a long time. He can easily adjust when something like this happens and then he can make it a still enjoyable experience for the whole audience and all of his viewers. So major props to him. If you would like for me to watch any other major string breaks like the Midori string break or any others, one of Ray's older string breaks, please let me know. I'd love to watch them and analyze them and provide more context to how something like that works. If you have anything else that you want me to react to and analyze about like classical music fails or different performances or such, just let me know in the comments. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video. It'll let me know to make more videos like this. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and follow me on all of my socials. Thank you so much for watching.